Okay, so I want to ask you, what is your Red Sea, right? Because a lot of people don't be thinking, people just be on, oh, it's the new Old Testament, but the whole Bible is relevant. The Bible states that ain't nothing new under the sun. What was happening back then is happening today, okay? It's just a lot of stuff is happening spiritually instead of physically, right? And this morning when I was in my prayer time, God had talked to me about the Red Sea. Right? What is the Red Sea in your life? And that's basically the things that is your blockages, your obstacles. You cannot get to the other side, but yet the enemy is coming after you, right? So let me give y'all what God gave me. So God was making me think about, we always say God is God, which is true. Like what I'm about to state is truly stated, right? But we have to be able to realize that God doesn't go back on his word and its principles and its laws in place that he is not going to cross. And when we realize that, we have to be able to understand that partnership. I always go to partnership because that's what always God puts in my mind. According to the Red Sea, right? God didn't just put them on the other side of the sea, even though he could have did that. He's God. He could have just took them and put them on the other side of the sea. No, he parted the Red Sea and they had to walk through. So sometimes we have to be able to understand that we have to keep going. We can get fearful of thinking, well, what if I walk through? Think about the Israelites. What if they didn't walk through because they feared that it would have collapsed? They feared like, oh, I couldn't do this, right? It can be so much fear going through this because you can think, what if I don't make it? What if the water turns, collapse and I go together, right? But God had made me realize how he is so good because he made it where they didn't have no choice. See, God will put you in a position and have your back against the wall and he's going to make you go. I believe in free will, but just like I said, baby, go read up on Jonah. A lot of people are Jonas and God is going to be like, oh, baby, you going to go. Okay, so he allowed me to realize that he allowed the enemy to chase after them, right? Because he wanted them to go. Because sometimes you won't go unless you see something. And sometimes you won't go unless you have no other choice but to go. So God allowed the enemies to chase after them, right? To make them go. I'm not saying that that's why they went. I'm just giving you what God gave me, right? God is after your faith. Do you trust that if I made a way that I'm going to let you get to the other side? Right. So, but I want you to peep this because he made me realize that if you read up in, Exodus, wherever it's at, go read your Bible. He made the angels go behind them, right? And he was basically stalling the enemies, right? So even though they didn't know that. See, a lot of times we don't know what God is doing behind the scenes, but that doesn't mean it's not taking place. So even though it appears that these enemies are coming after them, right, as they're going through, they don't even realize that the enemies can't touch them, but God is allowing them to seem like they're chasing after them so they don't have no choice but to walk through this sea, right, to get to the other side. And God made me realize he makes it appear. This is why I always say, don't get caught up on what you see, because it would appear that the enemy is, winning over you, or that he has prevailed over you, or the weapon that was formed succeeded. But that is not the case. And then once the Israelites got to the other side, then the water collapsed and then the enemies was destroyed. See, God had made me realize your enemies are part of the plan. So many times we get so caught up on the enemy and he's doing this. Baby, you need your enemy. You need your enemy for promotion. You need your enemy to get to the other side. Stop getting caught up on what's a part of the story and realize that God got the story under control. But we have to be able to realize that it is certain enemies, because you got to think about it, so many enemies, you always going to have an enemy. New level, new devil. It's new level, same devil. You feel me? Just different tricks. Okay. And when we realize this, we have to be able to understand God is going to destroy, annihilate the enemies you see today. You will see no more, which means you're not going to deal with the same things, the same demons you were dealing with. On that level, you would never deal with them again. But that's not going to take away that you're going to deal with a different type of enemies. Yes, but realize God will make it appear to seem like your enemies is prevailing over you, or your enemies is chasing you and you have no way. It's all a part of a strategic plan. God's thoughts are not our thoughts. We're not going to understand it, especially when we're in the situation, right? Because we can be fearful. God can do a thing. He can make a way, but then we get fearful. And that's nothing but the enemy, right? Because the fear is a spirit. And he will make us fearful of, oh, I can't do this, or what if I don't make it, or what if the water collides back together and I die? All these types of thoughts. And God knows that, but he will strategically place it where the enemy is chasing after you, so you have no other way but to go straight, but to go through the way that God created a way for you to go. And even though it appears that the enemy is doing whatever it is that's in your situation. You got to know it's an angel behind you that is protecting you. And God needs the enemies to follow you, because he needs those enemies right where he needs them. So when he blow the water back, they're destroyed. The enemies you see today, you will see no more. So I want to ask you again, what is your Red Sea? What is that obstacle? What is it that is placed in front of you that you feel like, I don't have any other way? You think about it, the Israelites were trapped. They had no other way, and then the enemy's coming after them. It's always a way. But when God makes that way, don't be fearful. Go through and put your faith in him. And you got to realize that faith building, that's something that we don't want to talk about that, but that's that right there. That faith is being built through the moments where you have no other way but to trust God. You don't see your way out. So when you make it out, you know it was nothing but God. And that's what God made me realize. I put you in certain situations and allow certain situations to take place because it's building your faith. It's the evidence. I said this in my other video. I have not posted yet, but I was saying a lot of times back then when I was in the world, I always needed paper evidence, right? Physical evidence. But God made me realize my life is evidence. When you start to look back on the things God brought you through, when you were in depression, when you were in that pit and you come to a place of joy, when you come to a place of peace, when you come to a place where you can experience God, that's your evidence right there. And how else are you going to get stone cold proof, stone cold evidence that God is with you, that God is for you, that God means when he says that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, that he makes ways out of no ways, that he is with you, that he will never leave you, that he will never forsake you. You know, it's all about stone cold evidence. And like I said, that evidence ain't always easy to get. Sometimes you got to go through the Red Sea scared and trembling. But guess what? When you make it to the other side, that's where you say, thank God.